Hi, this is Henk, and welcome to another edition of the Skull Sessions. And today, my guest is Terry Campbell. That's correct.
Yes, sir.
What do you got going on, Terry, other than you'll be in my anthology?
Well, got a couple of things coming out in some other anthologies from Graveside Press, uh, Rowan Prose Publishing.
Okay, what are the names of those anthologies?
I'm sorry.
What are the names of the upcoming anthologies that you said
Oh,
you're also in?
the one for Rowan Prose is called After Dark. That's coming out in September of this year.
Is it kind of vampire inspired or
No,
just horror?
it's just a mixture of horror.
Okay,
Yeah, no particular theme.
okay.
And the Graveside Press got several an illustrated poetry anthology. I have a drawing and a poem. I did a kind of 1990s version of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven,
Okay, cool.
and uh, and there is a cosmic horror coming out from them. I don't think they've got names for any of these yet. And then there's a cryptid anthology coming out from them uh, this year, and a couple of those maybe next year. And I've got Graveside Press also has a little like a little penny dreadful kind of publications that they do where it's not really a novel, but not really a short story, more like novellas
Okay.
in little paperback forms. I've got one coming out called The Seething Below coming out from them in August.
Would they release novellas? It's not like a compilation.
Yes, they do full length novels and the novellas, and they call them Tiny Terrors.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, and
Are they
I have
smaller books or they're full size or just thinner?
right, yes, exactly. And I have a weird Western four-story collection coming out from them next year. That one's called That's the Way Things Die Out Here in the West. And
Oh, that's
then
cool. Yeah,
one of theirs,
Merrill David from Texas Authorcon. He
I
has
have
a
met him, yes.
yeah, he has it's like a Western horror anthology coming out called Tumbleweed.
I saw that. I saw you did the illustration for something about concerning that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be in it. So a story. So every story I do an illustration. So I did one for that, and I remember because I'm doing the anthology that you're in. So I was like pressed for time. So I kept emailing Meryl and being like, "When's the latest I can get this to you by?"
I'm sorry, that's the last part.
I was asking him when the latest deadline that I could get the anthology illustration to him by, and so, but fortunately I got it in time.
Yeah, good. And one other thing I have coming out towards the end of the year is Graveside has a sister imprint called Water Dragon Publications, and I have a werewolf novel coming out called Shun the Moon. That is all this year and next year. And I've got a couple of works in progress. One's a weird Western novel, and one is a folk horror novel that I'm working on.
Is that kind of a genre you stick in more with like the folk horror, Western horror, sort of like antique horror, you know, genre? Like
What
opposed to
about
like,
the?
do you stick in more of that, like the sort of antique horror genre, like the like Western, like folk, like like regional, like as opposed to like cosmic horror, like
Lately, yes, it's weird. I don't know if I had mentioned in any of my cover letters to you or anything, but I wrote extensively back in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s. And I had a lot of short stories published. Most were in the little small press magazines, but there were a few mass market anthologies. I was in one of the Hot Blood books, but some reason around 2003, I quit writing. Just got out of it, and it wasn't until 2023 that I had a weird dream.
Oh, so you took like a 20-year break?
Yeah, I guess so. I just I didn't do anything for a while, and then around 2010 maybe I started getting back into art and was doing that, just paintings, mostly oil paintings, and then I had that weird dream, and I thought I had to make a good story, and I didn't even have a computer at the time. My wife bought me a laptop, and I never did write that story that from the dream that I had, but that's when I started getting into those weird westerns, and yeah, it's kind of been my focus since returning. I have several ideas for different ones, and I
Uh,
love reading about them too. So
Do you have like a method you prefer, like a first person, third person, like short stories, long stories, past tense, present tense, future? Like, is there a way that you approach them? Like, are they like this is like your pattern for all of them, or does it change?
the uh, the weird westerns are usually in the third person, and some of my other horror, particularly in the past, it was a lot of first person. But and I've done little tiny bit of science fiction here and there, but it's not really my thing. But yeah, so it's there's really no one way that I go about it, just depending on the. Sometimes I feel that it pulls the reader in a little better in some instances when it's a first person point of view. You put you right in the guy's shoes, so to speak. So, but
Right.
yeah, no, nothing really, no really thought process into how I go about that.
Yeah, I feel it's kind of like the story you want to tell, kind of like it kind of speaks to you on like how it's better illustrated.
Exactly. The idea will dictate it usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right
So
about that.
do you prefer the shorter works or do you like longer works?
Uh, Now I'm leaning more towards the longer ones. When I was younger, back when I was writing before, I did write the werewolf novel I mentioned earlier. I wrote that in like 94. And the book Kindred Feather, that was my first novel. I self-published that on Amazon in 2023. And that one I wrote back in like 1993. So, yeah, I guess I was doing mostly short stories back then. Now I'm trying to focus on the novels, but when I see an interesting anthology come up that there's a market for, and I think I can come up with something, and I'll hit the pause button on the novels and try to come up with something for those.
Well, I noticed something. So I've noticed that novels sell way better than short stories. And that's
Hmm.
what all authors and all publishers tell me. But anthologies do very, very well. I
That
mean,
seems like there are a lot of them, way more than when I was writing back in the 90s. I mean, they came few and far between opportunities back then.
oh yeah, definitely.
But
Yeah,
now, yeah.
I think what it is people like they recognize one guy in the anthology, so they're willing to take the chance, to take on everything else.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, it has definitely given a lot more people a lot better opportunities, that's for sure. The way the writing world and the way it all changed between those 20 years that I wasn't writing, it was almost like having to start all over again. It really was.
I feel like it's kind of one of those things like riding a bike. So you kind of like you know the way to
Yeah,
do it. You might not like be so sharp on like all the quick turns and everything else, but you generally you know how it goes.
yeah. Used to you would send the story off and you would watch for the mailman to come every day, and now you're like, oh, 5 minutes later, I got a response.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember when you had to send stuff via like postage. Like you couldn't like email it, you had to send it in an envelope.
Right. I used to go up to a little Ecker drugstore in my neighborhood, had a little post office in the back, and that's where
I remember
every
that.
day.
I mean, I've lived all over, but I remember Ecker Drug Store. I don't even know if they're still around.
They're not. They are long gone.
Long gone.
But that lady knew what I wanted every time she saw me walking up with that envelope.
Okay, awesome. Um, was it like depending on where I live? My dad's military, so we'd move
Uh-huh.
all the time.
Yeah.
So like when you're in a more like a like kind of a artsy college town, you know, everyone there was like just kind of like social communicable, but sometimes when he was stationed at the Pentagon, it's like a very conservative area. It's like
Right.
you have a hard time you go to the post office and they give you shit there. You like just everybody there is a lot more high strung.
Oh yeah.
Have you lived kind of in the same area the entire time?
hmm
And
Me?
and how is it there?
Oh, it's yeah, I've been in the Dallas area in suburbs my entire life, except 2 years I lived in Grand Rapids, Michigan, with my first wife, and
Okay.
I did not
Are you
care.
going to Texas AltaCon?
I'm sorry.
Are you going to Texas AltaCon? It's in Dallas.
Oh, AuthorCon, yes. I did not make it last year, but the year before was when I first started writing again. And yeah, I went out there. That's when I met David Merrill and some other people, and that was when I was really starting to read the splatter westerns and
Okay.
thinking that's what I wanted to to get into.
Are you going this year?
Uh, the next one I will go to for sure. Yeah.
What, the one this July or the one next year?
I Is it Texas AuthorCon?
Yeah, in Texas, 'cause I do Texas AltaCon in Dallas every year, and I do KillerCon in Austin every
Oh,
year. And I know the AltaCon is in July and the KillerCon is in August.
yeah. The AuthorCon I will definitely go to this year.
Okay, well, I'll be there. I'll see you there.
Oh, that'll be awesome. Yeah.
And the anthology, shoot me an email anytime if you want any copies. I can send you whatever the printing cost is, whatever, I'll pass it on to you, but it's like just a cost. And
Okay.
everybody, I tell everybody who's in the anthology, I can send you whatever copies you want. But
Okay.
people
Cool.
love them because they tend to sell well at the like the big events where a bunch of authors are there because they'll just walk around and get everyone there to sign it.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was doing when I went to the AuthorCon
Yeah.
yeah, a couple of years ago. Yeah, I was having a big time.
Uh, so switching topics for a minute,
Sure.
so is Graveside Press like your primary publisher, or do you have more than one publisher?
Well, definitely getting the most stuff from them. Oh, I forgot to mention with Rowan Prose, the one that I have a story coming out in their After Dark anthology. Next March, they are publishing a collection of reprints of my stories that were all published in the 90s back in those small press magazines.
Oh, cool.
That
Do
is
you feel
called
like your writing style has evolved a lot between the 90s and now?
yes, I think it has. Uh, haven't really decided if it's for the better yet or not,
That's
but
going to be my next question. Yeah.
I have uh, I have had quicker success in placing stories because I had some of the stuff that I've had published since I started up again were old stories. In fact, my story for Jokes on Mankind, it was I think it was probably one of the last stories I wrote in that phase, and I don't think I had ever sent it anywhere
Yeah.
because it
Yeah, I was
kind
gonna
of
ask you.
when
It
I
takes.
quit.
Oh yeah, it takes place in Brazil. Have you been to Brazil?
I have not, no. The thing that made me want to place it in Brazil was the iguanas. I had like 4 or 5 pet iguanas at the time, and I was really
I
into
think
them.
iguanas are awesome. Yeah,
And I was reading about how they're all over the beaches there, and so I'm going to set the story there. That's different.
that's awesome. Yeah, me and some friends went to go see the Mexican ruins. Um,
Oh yeah.
and when we were there were like these giant iguanas everywhere. And I remember my friend Nicole kept trying to convince me that they're all radio controlled, that are following us around with cameras. Like I didn't buy it, but that's pretty amusing.
That's cool.
And I remember we went to like right next to like all the Mayan sites. They had like all these people like selling like Aztec rugs and Aztec all sorts of stuff. And the first one I went to, I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." And like they had a rug, and I was like, I asked how much, and they said $200. I was like, "All right, that's cool." And then I'm walking away, and they kept lowering the price, and they got down to $40. And I definitely didn't want it now that they lowered it down to $40. Then I went to the next Aztec or the next Mayan run, and there were vendors with the exact same items. So
Oh
they're probably all like made in China or something. They're just
yeah.
imported. Like, well, now I definitely don't want them.
Right. Yeah, that's on my bucket list is to see a Mayan pyramid.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. And
Yeah.
they also have what are called cenotes, which are like
Yes.
they're like pools or whatever, but the
Hmm.
water is so clear
I
you
know I've
can
seen
see the
YouTube
ground,
videos.
you can see like the pebbles and everything. And then
Hmm.
like we went swimming there and we went like through this cave, but it's like kind of a wide open cave. Then all these little bats on the top and they're all flying by. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see those too. Just
Yeah.
fascinated with old history like that. Always have been. Except when I was in school, I hated it then.
I liked it in school, but
Yeah.
I like pretty much like history and everything else, and like all the like books and mythology and stuff like that. But it feels like they've discovered so much more since then. Like
Oh yeah, for sure.
the Easter Island statues, and they just found out it's not just the head; it's the whole body.
Right.
And they found out all this like that giant stuff underneath the pyramids in Egypt. I don't know if you heard about that, but yeah,
Hmm.
weird stuff keeps coming up.
And so much, especially Egypt, so much undiscovered.
Well, it kind of makes you. Have you ever seen the movie Stargate?
Yes.
So, which I definitely do not think that's true. I don't think it was aliens, but
Right.
I do think it's kind of interesting. But all right, man. So, I won't keep you here all day. But how can people contact you? Do you have a website?
I'm working on getting the website up. I do not right now,
You-
but right now I'm active on Facebook, Threads I'm on a lot. Blue Sky, but there's not a lot of activity going on there.
oh yeah.
So yeah, mostly Facebook, Instagram, Threads.
I think you can get like the format for a website for free from like WordPress and put one together. Um,
Yes,
it's like the cost is almost negligible.
right.
So
Definitely when that first Tiny Terror hits,
that
I'm definitely going to get serious about it then.
well, every marketer I talk to is like, "Oh, you gotta have a website. You gotta have a
Exactly.
website."
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, I
yeah,
don't know if they're full of it or not because a lot of marketers are, especially the ones on like Facebook.
yeah.
But all right, man. Well, thank you very much for doing this. Do you have
Hey,
anything else
my
you wanted to
pleasure.
throw out there? To the social ecosphere. Like, do you want to tell people like one thing I always ask for to ask is I ask people in their work if you can compare it to something that's like you don't have to say, oh, it's exactly like this, but you're like, if you're into like say like Lord of the Rings or Stephen King or whatever, then you'll be into my stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's basically uh Lovecraft, King, yeah. Old
Well,
school
of course,
horror.
Lovecraft. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Just a side note, it's like, how rich would that guy be today?
Exactly. Wow.
Because when he came out, like horror was not big at all. Like
No.
you even had a lot of horror authors, like the guy did The King in Yellow, the yellow sign.
Right.
So everybody now says this stuff is awesome, but he did a few of those things like, oh, there's no money, so they started writing romance. But
Oh,
it's
wow.
like there was no money pretty much in that stuff. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, he'd be a multimillionaire now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe this, I tell people when I sign my book, I'm like, I'll sign it for you, and that way it's worth money when I die. I'm like,
Yes.
you gotta wait till I die.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right, so all right, man. So like aside from Lovecraft, do you have anything else you want to reference? Like anybody else you're a big fan of? Oh, I was gonna ask you too. You said you do artwork as well.
I do, yeah. Well, I did. I'm pretty much focusing on writing now, but that's another thing. When I was writing back in the 90s, I was also illustrating for a lot of those same small press magazines with pen and ink work.
Okay.
And yeah, very little color work I ever did, but
Do you still
I
do
have
some of that, or like you pretty much stopped?
I've pretty much stopped. I got a sketch I want to do for this one, the folk horror novel I'm working on. I just there's this image that keeps coming in my head, and I need to sit down and draw that out. But yeah, mainly since the writing bug hit again, that's all I've been doing.
All right. All right, cool, man. So I'll definitely see you at Texas AuthorCon, and
You sure will.
thank you for doing this podcast. And
Thank you, my pleasure.